Well, this is essentially part two on the subject of purpose brought up by the modern mystic, and this is sort of consistent with the comments, and I'll post a link over there. Um, I guess I'll preface by saying, look, I'm not for forcing sterilization on anybody. I'm not for any kind of Hitlerist, controlling of people's reproduction or any of that crap. But this is a valid point, in my opinion, that needs to be addressed by a society recklessly investing in what exists. So let's go back. We're back to this maze analogy, metaphor, and the rat and the cheese. And so the rat is sitting on the edge of the maze. He says, I don't want to go back to the maze. And all there is the abyss, and he says, well, the hell with it, I'll just jump into the abyss. What happens is that he's thrown back in the maze, okay? Because as long as people keep investing in the maze, the rats keep reproducing, they keep creating new players. And so the analogy, let's call it a game, whatever, if you were going to design a game, the first rule of the game might be that people don't have to play. That being part of the game is voluntary. And but life doesn't work that way. We're dragged into it. It's people decide to invest other people in the game. My parents decided that it was going to be good for me, or whatever they decided. Maybe they just decided to have sex, and this is the product of it. But the bottom line is I'm here because of their decision. They invested me here. I didn't invest in the game. I didn't say, oh, I need to go play the game. I'm desperate to play the game. I can't wait to get to the game. No. And then when I got to the game, it became apparent to me really early. The game is bullshit. I was ready to die when I was 7 years old. I mean, I'd seen enough. I'd seen my pet lizard die and squashed by my neighbor. I had seen life's little brutalities. I wondered why we had a colored maid. Back then you had colored people, and I wondered, who's taking care of her kids? She's taking care of me. Who's taking care of her kids? I mean, this stuff occurred to me at 7 years old, and I wondered, why is somebody else taking care of me? That doesn't make any sense. But anyway, we won't even go into that. So the point is that I was already not too charmed with this game. I was already looking for a way out of the maze. And so I'm just saying there's rats, there's among us who are not going to find life charming. And there's lots of people living horribly dismal lives, and all they know is they're born into it, and the whip is snapping, and that's all they hear. They hear the whip snapping, and the carrots are in front of them, and they're tied to the wagon, and they just know they got to go, got to pull the wagon. So let's not fool ourselves and not think that there aren't maybe billions of people who are not terribly satisfied with life if they had one moment to make the decision. If somebody didn't have them tied to the cart and the whip wasn't snapping and the carrots weren't in front of them, and they had a moment to reflect on it, they might conclude, this really is bullshit. So I'm not speaking for just me. It's just not one, lone rat that needs to be placated with an explanation. But there needs to be a justification for this notion. People think they have a right to impose life. We have laws saying you cannot impose death, but there's no law saying you cannot impose life. There's not even a question. There's not even, we actually subsidize people to have children. We actually encourage it. The Pope demands it. It's just, we just say, yes, you must invest in the game. You must. You have no choice. And so I guess my first argument that a civilized maze would say, if we're going to build a civilized maze, we would say that the first rule might be, okay, well, look, for the rats who don't want to play, we'll give you an easy way out. Yes, you'll have to endure a few years, but at some point we will respect your opinion and let you gracefully exit the maze. And we will only require that the only players will be the psychotic loonies who want to play, and that the rest of you, if you can gain enough intelligence to say it's bullshit, will let you walk away. And I'm not even this fatalistic about life. I would probably hang in there because I'd always want to fight for a better maze. I'd always say, yes, it's worth living just to see if human race can do something magnificent, that we can build something out of this maze, some monument to our intelligence, instead of just being fucking rats chasing cheese. And so I'm not that down on life, but I'm down on a purposeless life. I'm down on living in a system that has no integrity, that doesn't accomplish anything but feed greed. That I'm down on. That I have no use for. That's a game I will not play. And if that's my only option, if there really is no way to fix this system, then I'm here for nothing. There's no reason for me to be here. It's just a miserable, horrible, unpleasant, burdensome, brain-numbing pain for nothing. So, but this is a valid question. I want people to answer the fucking question. How can they justify imposing life? They say they don't know the truth, right? Or they say some other bullshit, and yet they invest in this thing called life, as if it's a given that it's some brilliant idea. You know, some brilliant idea. You know, it had to be created by something that's just so fucking brilliant. Well, I don't think it's so brilliant. Like I said, animals eating each other, and then even us with intelligence, we are eating each other. We're consuming each other. I mean, for Christ's sakes, just a few hundred years ago, there was slavery in this country. I mean, the modern mystic, yes, he believes that individuals have a desire to organize, and that individual desire to organize is all we need. It's almost like trickle-up organization, that all the little people organizing their CD collections will organize society into some, you know, it won't be perfect, but yeah, it'll be good enough. No, what people end up organizing is mechanisms like slavery. That's what they end up organizing. So let's not fool ourselves, okay? The libertarians out there, the Ron Paul interview, I mean, what a friggin' joke. 10 minutes of absolute bullshit. I mean, you know, this is supposed to be some kind of marvelous revolutionary politics. Nothing's bullshit. Yes, I'm opposed to the war. It's good to have at least one candidate opposed to the fucking war, but you know, he's not good for anything else. Completely unrealistic bullshit, and that's the answer. That's the thing people gravitate to. Yes, people must be free to be unfair. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Free to, you know, well, whatever. Let's not go through all the flaws in the social order. So anyway, it's a big question. It's a major question is, what exactly is the ethical justification for an intelligent species to use reproducing to justify it as, well, I have a right to it. I want to have kids. Well, that doesn't mean anything. I want. You want why? Because you personally want it, or because you see it as some sort of blessing and purposeful event for which the universe will be better off, for which this individual you are imposing the game on will be better off. You're making a decision, a critical, huge, gigantic decision. You are deciding the fate of a feeling organism directly and explicitly. And to have no way to guarantee that new rat you're imposing the game on won't be spending the rest of his life trying to figure out how to get out of the maze. And that risk is okay with you. It's okay to take the risk. Yes, you don't mind taking the risk. Isn't that charming of you? You don't mind taking the risk that it'll be born a mongoloid or retarded. That's okay. Oh, it's a little autistic. So what? It's still fun and charming. I mean, you know. So you will, as a society, generally, people will frown on all this vice and all this nasty behavior of people, and God forbid somebody should kill somebody. I mean, what an outrage. How dare they be so arrogant? And yet you will impose life, giving it that much thought. And what is that? I mean, we should at least reflect on it a little bit as a society. We should at least have some reason to give people pause.